London, 1888. A city enveloped in fear and a gruesome mystery that remains unsolved to this day. A name whispered in fear. A legend that has become one of the most chilling true crime stories of all time. Jack the Ripper. Who was he? Why did he kill? And how did he evade capture? Today we step back in time to uncover the terrifying story of Jack the Ripper and the brutal murders that shocked the world. To understand Jack the Ripper, we must first understand the world he lurked in. Welcome to Whitechapel, 1888, a district in East London, a place of extreme poverty, overcrowding, and desperation. The streets were filled with working-class citizens, factory workers, and most notably sex workers who struggled to survive. Crime was rampant, the police were ill-equipped, and the dimly lit alleyways provided the perfect hunting ground for one of history's most infamous killers. And then, the murders began. There were 5 women: Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly, known as the Canonical Five, who were murdered between August 31st and November 9th, 1888. These 5 women are often thought to be killed by the same person, Jack the Ripper. The first known victim of Jack the Ripper was Mary Ann Nichols, murdered on August 31st, 1888. Her body was discovered on Bucks Row, her throat slashed so deeply it nearly severed her head. But what shocked investigators the most was the brutal mutilation. Deep cuts and horrific wounds inflicted with surgical precision. Just days later, on September 8th, another victim was found, Annie Chapman. Like Nichols, her throat was slashed, but this time the killer took things even further. Her body was horribly mutilated, and some of her organs were missing. The level of butchery suggested a killer with anatomical knowledge. Was Jack the Ripper a surgeon, a butcher, a doctor? Panic spread through Whitechapel. The press dubbed the killer Jack the Ripper due to the Dear Boss letter sent to the newspaper, supposedly from the killer. But many people think the letter was fake and written by journalists to make the story more exciting and sell more newspapers. Another letter, the From Hell letter, was sent with a disturbing package, half of a human kidney, to a man named George Lusk, who was trying to help find the killer. The public believed there was one person, Jack the Ripper, who was committing these very violent crimes, mainly because of how shocking the murders were and how much the newspapers wrote about them. But as fear gripped the city, the murders continued. The night of September 30th became known as the double event. At 1 a.m., the body of Elizabeth Stride was discovered in Dutfield's yard. Unlike previous victims, Stride had only a single deep slash to her throat. Was the Ripper interrupted before he could finish his gruesome work? Just 45 minutes later, another body was found, Catherine Eddowes. And this time, the Ripper's brutality was at its peak. Her face was slashed beyond recognition, and once again, internal organs were removed with terrifying precision. A piece of her apron soaked in blood was found near a cryptic message scrawled on a wall. "The Jews are the men that will not be blamed for nothing." Some believed this message was a clue. Others thought it was meant to mislead investigators. But before police could study it, the writing was erased, on orders from higher authorities. The last known victim of Jack the Ripper was Mary Jane Kelly, found on November 9th, 1888. But unlike the previous murders, this one took place indoors, in her small room at Miller's Court. When police forced the door open, they were met with a scene straight out of a nightmare. Mary Jane Kelly's body was almost completely unrecognizable. She had been butchered in ways too disturbing to describe. It was as if the killer had all the time in the world to carry out his dark work. And then, the murders stopped. Over the years, countless theories have emerged about Jack the Ripper's true identity. Some of the main suspects include Montague John Druitt, a schoolteacher and barrister who allegedly drowned himself shortly after the murders. Some believed he had a mental breakdown and was the Ripper. Aaron Kosminski, a Polish barber with a history of mental illness, identified by a witness but never convicted. Dr. Francis Tumblety, an American quack doctor with a known hatred for women and a collection of preserved human organs. Prince Albert Victor, Queen Victoria's grandson, rumored to have been involved due to royal conspiracy theories. Despite extensive investigations, none of these suspects were ever proven guilty. The truth remains a mystery. More than 130 years later, Jack the Ripper continues to captivate the world. Books, films, TV shows, and documentaries keep the legend alive. But why? Perhaps it's because the case was never solved, leaving room for endless speculation. Or maybe it's the sheer horror of the crimes, a brutal killer who vanished without a trace. And so the legend of Jack the Ripper lives on. Was he a doctor? A deranged killer? A member of the royal family? We may never know. But one thing is certain, his shadow still lingers over Whitechapel. And every time the fog rolls in and the gas lamps flicker, some say you can still hear the whisper of his name, Jack the Ripper. What do you think? Who is Jack the Ripper? Let us know in the comments below. If you liked this video, be sure to check out our next video and don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime mysteries.